Alright guys, I'm back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the disaster of short notice fights. So, I think this is something I've been wanting to talk about because it just seems like people don't understand what's at stake when they're taking a short notice fight. And yeah, we've seen people um, you know, basically gamble and win before, but we've also mainly seen people gamble and lose. And I think this is something like people need to understand that when you take a fight short notice like this, you really are gambling. And especially if you have something to lose, like let's say Alexander Volkanovski, for instance, he was he's fighting for legacy. He said this. He's a champion. He's a dominant champion. Really, he's like at the moment he's like one win away from becoming basically clearing out his division. But the problem is because he took that short notice fight against Islam and he lost convincingly, no one ever wants to see another fight. And it's unfortunate because it's like there is a lot of politics being played where you understand your value and you understand these things. And you know, because he took that fight, he had every disadvantage in the fight and he took it, and big surprise, he ended up losing. And it's just like we have to understand that if you take a short notice fight like that, you have a lot to lose, and no one cares when you lose. Like when Volk lost, people were saying, "Oh yeah, you're a tough guy. Thanks for taking the fight. Thanks for saving the card and all that stuff." But what did he lose? Like it's kind of like you hosted a party and everyone came and they're like, "Oh, the party was so great." But did any of them help you clean up the house that they trash after the fact? Other than the like, "Hey man, here's the thumbs up. Thanks for the party. I had a great time." But they're not gonna fix the pieces, right? Who's putting Volkanovski together again after the head kick, right? I don't think anyone is, and that's the problem. It's like even if Volkanovski went out there and wins his next fight convincingly, no one is gonna want to watch him fight against Islam again. Like he's lost so much value as a champion because he took that fight. Like we have to realize, like there's a lot on the line, especially for a champion. And another fight, I mean, you look at Usman who fought Chimaev, and that was not a bad fight in any way, but at the same time, this is a former dominant champion, welterweight champion, and he took technically on paper he took another L. Now, no one really cares about the details. Unfortunately, they don't care. Like, oh well, that was a short nose fight, and he wasn't. He just got off the couch, and all this stuff. They're when people look at him, they say, oh well, he lost against Edwards twice, and then he just took another loss. He's technically this is a dominant champion to well he's on like a 3 fight losing skid now. Not the worst thing in the world, but man, when it comes to your value, when it comes to building a legacy, it's those aren't the decisions you want to make. Even though I don't know what kind of money he made, hopefully it was worth it. Same thing for Volkanovski. But when it comes to legacy, when it comes to that kind of stuff, who cares about saving the card? That's not your problem. That's the promotion's problem. Like, now your legacy is tarnished because, I mean, look at someone like Bobby Green, for instance. He decided, oh yeah, I'll fight anyone, anytime, anytime, anywhere. And what happened? Well, he took on a fight with a guy last minute he wasn't prepared for, and then he got pieced up and took one of the worst beatings we've ever seen in probably the cage in general. I mean, he was KO'd, and then he took like another 15, 20 power shots after the fact. I've never seen a guy so concussed, honestly. And he was walking around talking, but we all know he wasn't conscious until probably the next day. He probably woke up and was like, what happened in bed or something along those lines. But, that's another rare occasion of the guy who took the short notice fight, he actually won. Usually, most of the time, the guy who takes the fight usually loses because, again, he's not in shape. He doesn't have a game plan. And they might also be kind of rusty. These guys aren't not a lot of them aren't sparring. They're not really in the mindset. They need to get into the mindset. Volkanovski in his fight, he was looking flabby. He was on the back step when in the first fight he was moving forward. So if you take a fight short notice, you have to really be the kind of guy that's always training. Like I heard like a Bilal Muhammad, usually he's always in shape, he's always training. That's the professional thing to do, honestly. This idea that you would like do a Paddy Pimblett and you just gain like 100 pounds and then you drop it, it's like, well, you're missing on opportunities where you can move up and save yourself years of time potentially. If you jump in and you're ready to go for a fight, you're already like, you should already be preparing and know who you want to fight and always be preparing for those fights. That way, if there's an opportunity, you could jump ahead of the line, which might save you years, literally. But unfortunately, most of these guys aren't professionals. They just kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of this whole weekend warrior stuff where they get a fight, then they train for it, then they fight, then they get out of shape, and then they do it all over again. Which I don't know. It's so unhealthy on all levels to do something like that. You should always be around. You should always be in like fight shape to a degree. Like I would say, if you're fighting at 170 and then you walk around at like 200 pounds, that seems healthy. That seems fine. But like you don't want to put on 250 pounds or whatever. It just seems a little unprofessional. But yeah, I mean, here's another example. You look at Luke Rockhold. He took that fight with Michael Bisping the second time. Or Michael Bisping took the fight short notice, and he ended up actually winning and becoming the middleweight champion. Now, of course, we all know that he was a paper champ because, he was never the real champ. He never really... Who did he fight? He fought Dan Henderson, and honestly, he technically probably lost that fight if you really look at damage-wise. And then he fights George St. Pierre and then just gets strangled in, what was it, the third round he got submitted. I mean, I like Michael Bisping. Very, very funny guy. Seems like a good dude. Like, definitely the kind of guy I'd want to hang out with or something. But at the same time, he wasn't a real champ. But it doesn't really matter because he had the cojones, right? He took the fight short notice. He knew it was a gamble, but he didn't care, and he came out the winner. And he took the belt, all's fair in love and war and all that type of stuff. So you got to give him the credit, but we have to understand that this is a gamble. Like what happened to Volkanovski, like I don't know, it's like a curse of the tough guy. It's like tough guy-ism, like I'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. Some guys even go like any weight class. Like some guys really want to add another layer of machoism to all this, and it's not smart. It may make you look tough, and maybe some guys are giving you props because, oh, well, so-and-so's so tough. He said anyone, anywhere, and he actually did it. But most of the time, it ends up with you on the canvas, usually. And so, this short notice stuff, you have to really be careful. I mean, here's one last example is you look at Bryce. Look at him. I mean, took that fight short notice. Oh yeah, he's got the cojones and all that, and then he eats a right hook because he wasn't prepared for the fight, and then he was sleeping on the ground. So it's like, I mean, hopefully they're getting paid. I'm not really paying attention to what they're getting paid. Hopefully they're getting paid and they say, well, it was worth it. But at the same time, when it comes to legacy, when it comes to career, it's not really, short notice fights aren't really worth it. So I'll see you guys on the next one.